Story 1. I picked up my drunk wife, and her friend attacked me. Who's wrong here? So, I, 28M, have been married to my wife, 27F, for a couple of years now. And honestly, things have been pretty solid between us, except for one massive thorn in my side, her friend. Let's call her Karen, because why not? Karen's been in my wife's life for about 2 years, and from day one, I've hated her guts. She's loud, obnoxious, and has this fake I'm so quirky vibe that makes my skin crawl. My wife swears she's a great friend, but I'm not the only one who can't stand her. Half our social circle thinks she's insufferable too. Anyway, this past weekend, my wife drops the bomb that she's heading to Karen's place for a girls' night with 2 other friends. She says she'll be home by 10 p.m., promises she'll take a cab, and assures me she won't drink too much. I ask her point blank, "Are you guys drinking?" She admits, "Yeah, but I won't go overboard this time." This time being the key phrase here, because my wife, she's got a history of turning into a lightweight party animal. When she's hyped up, 1 glass of wine becomes a bottle, and suddenly she's singing karaoke off-key at 2 a.m. I love her, but I know her limits better than she does. So I tell her, "No cab needed, I'll pick you up. Just don't overdo it." She promises she'll keep it chill. I want to believe her, but my gut's screaming otherwise. Sure enough, I decide to roll up to Karen's place an hour early, around 9 p.m. just to be safe. And holy hell, I walk into a scene straight out of a frat house nightmare. These women, grown adults, mind you, are stumbling around, screaming like banshees, dancing like they're auditioning for a bad reality show. Bottles everywhere, music blasting, and there's my wife sprawled out on the couch, eyes half open, clearly 3 sheets to the wind. I'm pissed, but I keep my cool. I walk over, gently grab her arm, and say, "Babe, time to go." She mumbles something incoherent, but then Karen and the other 2 swoop in like vultures. "No, let her stay," they slur, acting like I'm kidnapping her. My wife even chimes in with a week. "Just a little longer." I'm like, "You've been at it for hours. You're trashed. We're done here." I try to guide her out, but Karen decides she's the hero of this story. She steps in front of me, all 5 of drunken fury, and starts jabbing her finger in my chest. You can't just take her. She's having fun. I'm trying to stay calm, but when I brush past her, she shoves me. Hard. Like, I stumble back a step. Then she starts yelling, "You're so controlling. You're an asshole," in front of everyone. The other 2 are nodding like she's dropping truth bombs, and I'm standing there, jaw on the floor, thinking, is this actually happening? I snap. Not violently, I'm not that guy, but I lay it out cold. The only reason I'm not pushing back is because you're a woman, and this is your house. But hear me now. You're banned from my home. Show up. And I'm calling the cops. The room goes dead silent for like 2 seconds before she starts cussing me out again, calling me every name in the book. I don't care. I scoop up my wife, who's now giggling and calling me my knight, in shining armor, drunk logic, I guess. And we're out. We get home, and it's a mess. I try to feed her some toast and water, but at midnight, she pukes it all up on the carpet. Naturally, she's clinging to me, slurring, my husband, hugging me like I'm a teddy bear, telling me I'm so strong and so handsome. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of adorable, and I'm secretly eating it up, but I'm still fuming about the night. She finally passes out around 1 a.m., and I'm left staring at the ceiling, replaying the insanity. Cue the next day. My phone's blowing up. Karen and the other 2 have formed a group chat without my wife, apparently, and are texting me non-stop. "You're a controlling jerk. You don't own her. How dare you ban Karen from her house?" As if my wife doesn't live there too. They're acting like I dragged her out by her hair instead of saving her from a hangover coma. Karen even sends me a novel about how I'm toxic and abusive, which is rich coming from someone who assaulted me in her own living room. Now I'm second-guessing myself. Am I the asshole here? I was mad, still am, but it's not like I showed up to ruin their fun for kicks. My wife was a mess, and I didn't trust her to get home safe. Maybe I came off controlling, but I feel like I had to step in. She's my wife, and I'm trying to look out for her. Karen's always been a bad influence, and this just proves it. But now her whole squad's painting me as the villain, and I'm wondering if I overreacted. Reddit. What's the verdict? There you go, amped up, dramatic, and ready for the ATA commenters to tear into it. What do you think, NTA, YTA, or ESH? I could even throw in some fake updates if you want to keep the saga going. Story 2. I kicked my son's girlfriend out and got roasted. Am I the jerk? I 50M. Am a single father to my son 15M. My then girlfriend got addicted to drugs and walked out shortly after he was born. She is no longer in our lives. My son has been making exceptional grades, and he plays for his high school's baseball team. He is pretty good at that, though my opinion may be a little biased, lol, anyway. That was until he started dating a girl 17F. They met when they were assigned as partners on a project, and I guess they hit it off pretty fast because this came out of the blue for me when I picked him up one day and he just said, "Dad, I have a girlfriend now." I was proud and excited for him that my son was finally becoming a man. I also had a remedial version of the talk with him. Can never be too careful. They've been dating for the past few months and they seem very happy together. But my problem is that my son's grades have been slipping. He's been skipping out on chores at the house and missing practice games. I'm not mad that he is dating. However, that should come after business school, baseball, etc. So last week I told him that he is no longer allowed to spend time with her unless he gets his shit together. He responded, "But Dad, I really like this girl." I told him that doesn't matter. If you fail and flunk out of school, I don't want you seeing her, and that's final. He signed and said fine. I figured that was the end of it. Well, until yesterday when I come back home from the store, and I found them on the living room couch together. He lied to me and said he would have a friend over to study. My son froze like a deer in headlights. I told him to go to his room, and then I turned to his GF. Now, I'll admit that I might have been a little stern, but I told her to get the hell out of my house and stay away from my son. He doesn't need this distraction. And if I ever catch you two together again, it won't be pretty for either of you. Then the waterworks started, and she stormed out. I go upstairs to my son, who is already on the phone, telling my mother and my sister, his aunt and grandmother, have always spoiled him. I take the phone and try to explain, but I get lectured for being too hard on him. He's just a boy, etc. I'm just trying to keep my son from ruining his life before it even starts. If he fixes his grades and everything, he can see her again. So I figured it'd be best to get an unbiased third-party opinion, AITA edit. Okay, so first, I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to give me this well-deserved, years-long, overdue attitude adjustment. I was an asshole in this situation. While I was in the right to be worried about my son's academic performance and his responsibilities at home, I'll admit that I let my temper get the best of, and I acted on impulse with how I handled this situation. I shouldn't have yelled at that girl. After talking to my son, it turns out that he never told her that he wasn't allowed to see her. She didn't know, and I should have gone to my son instead of taking it out on her. My job plus the past trauma from my ex leaving are not stresses that I can self-manage anymore. I'm done lying to myself, and I will be looking into therapy soon. My son has invited her over for dinner later this week. I plan to apologize and explain the situation, and I'll try to work with them to have fair rules that will encourage my son to stop slacking off, while also allowing him to spend time with her. You get more flies with honey and vinegar, and prohibition will only make my son lie and sneak around, which could lead him to doing dangerous, irresponsible things. I showed my son some of the comments, and he's been laughing his ass off at everyone roasting me. Lol. I may post another update this week after dinner, if I remember. Edit 2. Well, folks, my son just told via text that he spoke to her at school, and she has accepted our dinner invitation for tomorrow. Expect another update. Edit 3. Hey folks, thanks for sticking around through this mess. Alright, so let's get to it. So, my son brought her over for dinner, and the first thing I did was apologize to her, both for yelling and for telling her to leave. I emphasized that she was innocent in the situation, and I shouldn't have reacted the way I did. She accepted my apology, and now I feel a little less like a monster. Yalol. I also fully explained the situation with my son slacking off, and she was extremely understanding, and it turns out she's actually a pretty smart girl herself. Honor Society, 4.0 P classes, etc. Turns out my son has been, well, downplaying to her just how bad he's been slacking off to her. She is actually willing to help me hold him accountable. She has a car, so she'll start taking him to baseball practice, And his games, it actually makes it easier on me, and it means they'll be able to see each other more after school while ensuring he actually goes. Plus, he's more motivated to go if she is there supporting him. That, and she'll also start helping him study so he can get his grades back up again. They can spend time together outside of school. But he'll also get his homework done, she joked, and said that his household chores were on him. She draws the line at his dirty underwear. However, my son did agree to start doing better at cleaning up after himself around the house. You know, it really is amazing what can happen when you express your concerns through a discussion instead of a lecture rant. It actually felt like my son was taking in and understanding what I was telling him, instead of just get a load of this old man. And for some backstory about my son's GF, it turns out they use my house for their primary hangout spot because her parents don't like her relationship with him. Apparently they were glad that my little outburst the other day scared her away, hopefully for good. I don't really know how to feel about that. I was half expecting an angry dad to be on my doorstep. Whatever happened from there would be 100% on me. Lol. Anyway, I also told them that they are welcome to hang out at the house anytime within reason, of course, as I don't want them sneaking around and getting in trouble. And if they ever need privacy, just let me know, not directly lol, and I'll find a reason to be out of the house for a few hours. No questions asked. Just be safe and smart, and try not to make me a grandfather until my pension is firing on all cylinders. I'm really happy and proud of my son, and I'm glad that he's starting to experience love for the first time. Once his girlfriend left, I half-jokingly told him, "Don't screw this up. She really cares about you and had a heart to forgive my ass after what I did. Thanks to the fine people in this subreddit for the advice and the course correction. So all things considered, I think this situation is resolved and all is forgiven. Thanks." Folk story 3. Mum gave away dad's stuff. Now my family's falling apart. 6 years ago, my dad passed away. I, 17, was only 11 at the time, and it's hard to describe how much that loss carved out a piece of me. My sister, 19, was 13, and we both stumbled through those early days in a haze, clinging to the memories of him, his laugh, the way he'd ruffle my hair, the little things like his favorite coffee mug, or the worn-out baseball cap he always wore. Mom was devastated too, at first, but life moved on for her a lot faster than it did for us. Within a year, she started dating again. I don't blame her for wanting to fill the void. I guess I get it, in a way, but it still stung. She met husband #2 a few months into that, and things snowballed from there. He was a single dad with a 4-year-old son, a quiet kid who barely knew a world without his own loss. Mom and her new guy bonded over the idea of fixing their broken families. He wanted his son to have a mom, and Mom, well, she seemed eager to step into that role. They moved fast, way too fast for me to keep up with. Within a year, they were married, and a few months after that, Mom was pregnant. Now, 6 years later, she has 2 biological kids with him, a 5-year-old girl and a 3-year-old boy, and she calls her stepson her son too. He calls her Mum. And they've built this little unit that feels like it's erased the one we had before. I've tried to adapt. I really have. My stepdad's fine. I guess he's not cruel or anything, but I've never felt like part of their family. My sister feels the same. We're leftovers from a life Mom seems to have packed away in a box labeled past. Dad's stuff, though, that was ours. It was the one thing we could hold on to that still felt like him. His old watch, the stuffed bear he kept from when he was a baby, a couple of books he'd read to us, nothing huge, but they were his. They were proof he existed, proof he was ours. A few weeks ago, though, Mom did something that flipped everything upside down. Out of nowhere, she made this big production of giving each of her other kids her stepson and her 2 bio kids with her new husband, something that had belonged to Dad. She handed out these pieces of him like they were party favors. The stepson got a keychain Dad used to carry. The 5-year-old got a little carved wooden box he'd kept on his dresser, and the 3-year-old got that stuffed bear, the one Grandma's mom had given Dad when he was born. She acted like it was this sweet, unifying gesture, tying her new family to her old one. I couldn't believe it. I lost it. I told her she had no right to give Dad's stuff away like that. Those things were for his family, me, my sister, maybe Grandma and Grandpa, not them. Mum tried to brush it off. saying they were his family in spirit, and I called bullshit. She got defensive, saying me and my sister would get most of his stuff anyway. And why would I hate my younger siblings getting something small? I told her they're not. Dad's kids, none of them are, and it's messed up to pretend otherwise. She said I was overreacting, that it was just stuff anyone could own. But that wasn't the point. It was Dad's stuff. He didn't know these kids. He never met them, never held them, never even knew they'd exist. I asked her if she ever thought how gross it felt to give the kids who only exist, or exist in our lives, because he's gone, pieces of him like some twisted consolation prize. She snapped, told me to never talk like that again, and grounded me for it. My sister found out a few days later, and she was furious. She's in her first year of college, about an hour away, but she drove home that weekend just to pack up her share of Dad's stuff. She stormed into the house, barely looking at Mom, and started grabbing things, his old jacket, a photo album, anything she could claim before it disappeared. Mom tried to stop her, saying she was being unreasonable and should try to understand why she'd done it. My sister didn't hold back. She told Mom it was weird, creepy even, and that it showed exactly what she thought of us: dispensable, replaceable, when she didn't even ask if we'd be okay with it. Then she left, telling Mom not to call her until she figured out how to respect us. We couldn't keep it to ourselves after that. We called Dad's parents, Grandma and Grandpa, and told them everything. They were stunned. At first, they thought we'd misunderstood, that Mom wouldn't do something so thoughtless, so they drove over to talk to her themselves. Mom admitted it was true, doubling down like it was no big deal. She said it was just small stuff, that all her kids deserved a piece of Dad because he was still one of her husbands, and her new husband was fine with it since the items weren't sentimental. That's when Grandma's face went white. She brought up the stuffed bear, the one her mum had bought for Dad, right after he was born, before she passed away. It was one of the few things Grandma had left from her own mother, and it meant the world to her. She'd always told Mom that Dad's stuff should stay in the family, meaning me, my sister, and them and Mum had promised we'd get first pick. Then they would, before anything was given away or tossed. Grandma had even held off on us sorting through it all these years, because she wasn't ready to let go, and now Mom had handed that bear to a 3-year-old like it was nothing. Mom just shrugged and said it was still in the family, her new family. That's when Grandpa exploded. They didn't hold back. They told Mom that Dad would be disgusted if he knew what she'd done. They said she'd disrespected him, disrespected us, her kids, with him, and that she'd crossed a line they couldn't unsee. Grandma called her a liar, pointing out how convenient it was that Mom had waited until now, when we were old enough to push back but too young to stop her, to pull this stunt. Mom started crying, told them to get out, and accused them of throwing Dad in her face like it was some cheap shot. They left, but not before Grandpa muttered that she'd made her choice, and it wasn't us. After they were gone, Mom turned on me. She asked how I could let them do that to her, like I'd orchestrated the whole thing. I told her they weren't wrong, that I agreed with every word they'd said. I said if I could cut her off like my sister had, I would, but I'm stuck here until I turn 18. She just stared at me, then walked away. A few days ago, she cornered me again. She demanded I apologize not for what I'd said about Dad's stuff, but for letting Grandma and Grandpa tear into her. She said I'd betrayed her by dragging them into it, that I'd made everything worse. I didn't say anything. I just walked out of the room. Now I'm sitting here, wondering if I'm the asshole for not backing down, for not letting it go. AITA.